last seen in this area.
After spending about 10 hours in the comprehensive enhanced edition of Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge on a shiny new PlayStation VR2, going back to the old MetaQuest 2 version felt a lot like falling up a flight of stairs backward in slow motion. With the delightful and inarguably essential Last Call DLC, in addition to a bevy of improvements that make use of every last one of the new headset's haptic bells and whistles, plus the movie-like color depth, I found the droids I was looking for. Be warned, though, that you'll have to stick around beyond the first 3 hours of the middling original campaign and its genuinely bad writing, but after that, it picks up the pace and puts on a real Star Wars show. Tales from the Galaxy's Edge begins on a subdued note. Upon waking up in the quarters of a cargo ship, you step into the role of a nameless, voiceless droid mechanic who also happens to smuggle illicit goods as a side hustle. Its early moments have you stumbling around the ship while characters talk at you through your transmitter, but at least you get a nice scenic shot of interstellar travel from your ship's observatory, before things go to the dark side. A crash landing puts you on the planetary surface of Batuu, a backwater world marked by a podunk settlement you might recognize as the setting of the Star Wars themed section of Disney's real-life theme parks. Here you meet Slack, the cantina's sole proprietor, and a droid repair shop owner who's your main smuggling client. They come across as exasperatingly cheesy at first, with overtly obnoxious dialogue lines that seem like they were pulled directly out of The Phantom Menace, and you can't skip any of it.
Oh, by the spires, you made it! And all in one piece, which means we can find the cargo!
The droid shop and the cantina are treated as Galaxy's Edge's two central hub areas, though it's disappointing you can't explore any more of the settlement itself. From the opening, there are plenty of chances to live out your Star Wars fantasies with fully modeled blasters, satisfying shotguns, throwable lightsabers, rocket launchers, and obscure weapons that can be comfortably dual-wielded or two-handed if you wish. They all look lifelike up close, almost as if you were holding authentic Star Wars props. The fleshed-out arsenal feels especially punchy due to the haptic feedback and trigger resistance of the Sense controllers, and each blast can repel your trigger finger with an impressive level of force. The all-kit, or multi-tool, makes otherwise trivial interactions like solving basic puzzles to open a door or a treasure chest feel more like you're a kid playing with a toy that makes a whirring noise or shoots fire or sparks. If you're wondering if you ever get to play as a Jedi, you do, but that chapter is more of a side adventure than the main course. Most of your time is spent blasting your way through Batuu's visually impressive but linear and straightforward levels, the first few of which are true offenders in the category of tutorialing you to death.
I suppose you can use your hover pack for things other than getting droid parts on high shelves. Theoretically, you could even get on top of cliffs and things.
They are all almost entirely made up of a series of hallways, with the occasional nook containing a randomly generated treasure chest or an audio log, almost like Final Fantasy VII Remake's world. It helps make Galaxy's Edge's content feel more substantial that you can return to these levels at any time you'd like to farm the same respawning enemies for loot, and there's a quest journal with enough space for a few materially rewarding, albeit monotonous side quests. It's only when you get to the Last Call DLC content, which seamlessly expands the original 3-hour story into a 10-hour arc, that the characters do eventually become enjoyable to spend time with. Slack becomes the star of the show, with a head full of stories told so intricately you'd think you were living them for yourself.
This is why I think Palpatine could still be alive.
In fact, you actually do get to. You play through the 3 short but more satisfying chapters, wherein you step into the shoes of a Jedi and the assassin droid IG-88 from Empire Strikes Back. These new chapters arrive exactly when they need to, clearing the palette and widening the story stakes between quests, as you move toward Galaxy's Edge's legitimately grand finale mission. You move around the world by tilting your left thumbstick and teleporting by pushing your right thumbstick inward and pointing at your destination. This is pretty standard fare for anyone who's used a Quest 2 or other room-scale style VR headset, but it is still such a big step up for anyone whose primary VR experience is with the original PSVR's directionless move controllers. It's disappointing that you can't move around while holding the crouch button, but of course, this is VR, so you can still just crouch in real life and move. Also, pressing the O button activates your jetpack. It didn't feel great at first, and it needs a mid-game upgrade before you can move around up there instead of just hovering. But after that, smoothly gliding around the field of battle is pretty cool when I wasn't awkwardly running to invisible boundaries. Regardless, it's great fun to face off against roving bands of pirates, mercenaries, battle droids, vicious local fauna, and the First Order itself. Their AI isn't all that smart. But unlike when I originally played on the Quest 2, the PSVR2 is able to render enemies at a distance without obscuring too much detail, making it a lot more fun to pick bad guys off at range. Standoffs are tense because it only takes a few well-placed shots to kill you or anyone else, but combat is balanced enough to remain sufficiently entertaining in the face of danger. It helps that you can summon up to 3 droid allies to follow you around and fight at your side, making battles feel winnable even when you're outnumbered and outgunned on all sides. But repairing them with your multi-tool can be a pain. Speaking of tools at your disposal, there's also a neat scanner activated by a button on your left wrist that lets you catalog points of interest into a codex, and the convenient drag-and-drop inventory system lets you place loot directly into a pouch for easy management. Healing yourself is as simple as positioning a Bacta canister in front of your face and pressing the trigger button to spray it. And it feels natural to pull out your pouch, reach into your inventory, and throw floating droids or grenades into the fray of battle. And it all sounds terrific. Especially if you're using 3D audio, it's a treat to hear the iconic Star Wars blaster noises ricochet through the environment in all directions. Mixed with a riveting original soundtrack and bursts of headset vibration, simulating blaster bolts whizzing past my face, and explosions erupting in my vicinity, I found myself fully transported into the Star Wars universe. The only major cracks in the illusion were during the occasional glitch, like when a weapon fell through the geometry. Not to mention, most of the objects you interact with aren't fully physics simulated, so they don't respond to all of your movements. Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition is an excellent way to showcase the best features of a fancy new PlayStation VR2 headset to friends and family. But thanks to the expanded content, it's also a worthy shooter and a memorable Star Wars game in its own right. Unfortunately, there is no way to skip past the annoying first chapter. But if Star Wars fans are accustomed to anything, it's sitting through some bad episodes before you get to the good stuff. While it's slightly dogged by a few monotonous quests and some slow burn character development, once it gets moving and throws you into those punchy blaster battles, it recreates that signature Star Wars atmosphere in detail so vivid that most of the 10 hours you'll spend inside the headset are a great time. For more VR, check out our reviews of Horizon Call of the Mountain, and of course the PlayStation VR2 itself. And for everything else, stick with IGN.